the scarcity of housing, which just means it's going to become more and more expensive, and we can't reclaim any more land to build any more houses. As you say, it's not a sustainable policy. So I'm thinking, I know the rationale is that we need a higher birth rate and more people to cope with the aging population, but isn't there other alternatives rather than increasing the cost of living to the extent that right now people who can afford a 5-room flats can only afford 4-room flats in the future, for instance, because this problem is really a pressing one in Singapore today.
I think, in essence, what he's saying is rising cost of living, affordability of cars, affordability of houses, and so on. You know, so his generation, therefore, is very interested in this issue. This is what they have. Move forward. Can I buy my homes and so on? On rising cost, I would say this is going to be a perpetual problem. Every generation, in fact, every year, we are all faced with this question of rising costs. Another word for this is inflation. So as Chairman of Monetary Authority of Singapore, I take a great deal of interest in this question called inflation, or in other words, rising cost. And rising cost comes about in various ways. One will be the cost of your imported oil, your imported food, whatever you import. If costs go up outside, we would therefore be hit by the rising costs. So the solution for that will be a stronger Singapore dollar. Provided our economy grows, then the dollar can be strong. So a stronger Singapore dollar will mitigate the rise in prices of goods imported into Singapore. But you can't let the Singapore dollar go up too much, because that's going to affect your exports. Then your exports become more expensive. But that's only one element. There are domestic factors which cause prices to go up, therefore make it less affordable for young Singaporeans like your student just now. And one of these causes will be wages. People want wages to go up. They don't realize that wage is actually a component of cost. The higher wages for the workers, for the professionals, the technicians, and so on, the higher the cost. So that would push up your costs. Then the other will be the land costs. We are a very small island, so when we grow, well, costs will go up because rental goes up. And we are quite concerned if foreigners, investors tell us that your costs are getting too high compared to other places. If the banks tell us that your rental costs are too high, we take note. So the question is, knowing the explanation of the causes of rising costs, what is the solution? I think that is the key, you see. This is where younger people got to, I think, pay much attention to this particular problem, the leaders and the people. How do you overcome that? How do we, for example, make sure that the younger people can still own their own homes? Answer is, we can ensure through HDB that first-timers can always own at least a 2-room flat or a 3-room flat. I mentioned 2-room flat because they are lower income group. They are also people who need homes. So for that group, you can have all kinds of subsidy, additional housing grant. If that's not enough, you can give more grant. Even for the 3-roomers, we can give. But for a young graduate like him, when he graduates, he said, but that's not my ambition. My aspiration is not to own a 3-room flat. No, which is quite right, you see. That must not be his ambition. It's to own a condominium. Well, can we realize his expectation? If he wants to own it at the age of 35, I think the answer is yes. If he wants to own it at the age of 27, 28, I think it's a bit difficult, you see. You just come out, work for 2-3 years. You're going to marry. You want to give your future wife a good home. Well, you complain to the government, it's too high a price, I can't get it. Well, I think that's a bit beyond us, you see. But in terms of housing for everybody, we can guarantee. So the question for them is, how do we meet the expectation? This is what I mentioned just now. It's going to be a big problem. Because young people must have aspirations, they must want to do better and better. So how do we meet that expectation? Can we all be realistic, see? To make sure that after some time, you can still afford to buy a dream apartment or a dream home and so on. Well, the answer will be better quality homes, maybe smaller, because land is expensive, higher, but smaller flat. But nevertheless, it's good quality home that you can have. So that's the kind of approach which we got to adopt to ensure that we can meet the aspirations of the younger people. Not easy. I'm not saying that it can be done very easily. We got to work together to ensure that we can somehow meet their aspirations. Well, what do we do? The other way will be is not to grow, so that people don't come here. Singaporeans emigrate, and then we don't have children. Then there'll be more land. You see? Is that a solution? No, I mean these are options. So when we talk about international talent, foreign workers, we have to weigh the options. If you want to have economic growth, you need more people to supplement your aging workforce, a smaller workforce. If you do not want all this, you want to have space, well, there's another model. If I may use Penang as an example. You put it to the people. Do you want to go the way of Penang, where we have very few international talent, more land? Penang is smaller than Singapore, but more land than we have, smaller population. Do you want to? I'm not saying that the Penang model is wrong, because people might be happier there. But if you think we'll be happier with lower income, more land, and so on, well, then it's a matter of choice. Don't go for growth. But is that what Singaporeans want? I don't think that's what I want, because I want to have the resources for the good education, for civil society, for the arts, for sports, and so on, to educate my children. I want that, you see. But when you want that, then, well, we compete for space. Actually, if you read the surveys by many people, they find that the happier people are in very poor countries. In parts of Philippines, in Bhutan, and so on, they are happiest because they don't know what life is. They are quite happy. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you eat, then you farm, then you sleep. But do you want it that way? So it's our choice. If you say, no, we want that kind of lifestyle, go back to the fishing village days, they're marvelous, you see, for the government. Don't have to do very much.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that's what you want. Maybe take the view.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I would say that to me, meeting the expectation of a younger one is tough. I mean, just a personal example. I always tell my wife and even my kids, I could pay out my HDB 5-room flat within 7 years in those times. And obviously now I think my kids will be a bit hard-pressed to do that.
They have to do it in about 20 years. It's a fact.
Yeah, I mean...
About 20 years or more.
So as you have said that climbing from the base is easy, but once you reach the top there, I think that's where the challenges really are.
Right. So my answer to the young man just now is, this is indeed a challenge for Singapore. This is what we have. Just a small island, people, how do we move forward? You see?
Yeah.
So these are questions for debate and for us to work out a solution. Yeah.